Happy New Year and welcome back to This Takes the Cake. I am Sarah in Hilton Head and Savannah.
And I am Hannah from Atlanta, and we're super excited to be here at the beginning of the new year. Sarah, do you have anything exciting happening in 2025?
I don't think I'm traveling in 2025. Did a lot of traveling in 2024.
We both did. That's why we're
Yep,
here
we
today.
did.
Yeah. We'll talk
Yes.
about that. I'm actually going to Paris in 2025, but not to plan a wedding. So very
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah. Well, let's kind of get into why we're here. So Sarah and I did international weddings last year. So I went to Greece and did a wedding in Santorini. And Sarah, where did you go exactly?
I was in Spain.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What part of Spain were you in?
Yep. I was in Spain in Girona. It is like the northeast part of Spain. It was really cool. We could see the Pyrenees Mountains, which are part of France. So we were kind of close to the border. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, tell me, like, how did that, like, I can tell you how Greece happened for me, but like, did they inquire with you and say I'm getting married in Spain, or like, was it something that like shifted and changed to Spain? Like, how did that work for you?
Yeah. So she's from the States and he's from Ireland. And so they didn't want to get married in either of those places because they're like, well, everybody's going to have to travel, but we don't want to make her family, have easier travel than his family. So they knew they wanted to get married in Europe somewhere. They were looking in Italy, Spain, and I can't remember if France was on the list or not.
Okay.
But yeah, landed in Spain.
Okay.
It was amazing. So
yeah.
What about you?
Yeah. So one thing about me here in Atlanta is I do a lot of private property weddings over time. And so originally this couple had hired me because they were planning to do one at their house in Buckhead here in Atlanta. And it kind of turned into a whole family thing. So, the bride hopped on the call with me. I'll never forget. I was sitting in the office in Alyssa's house. Like, I was sitting in her office. I had just gotten my hair and makeup done for my wedding, like my trial. And this bride, like, we got on the Zoom call. We were just kind of like checking in with each other. And she's like, honestly, Hannah, like, I don't think I want to get married here. Like, I've always dreamed of getting married internationally. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then I was like, do I go with you? Like, do you want me to go? Like, she'd already booked full planning, and she's like, yeah, like, I want to go. And I was like, okay, like, you do understand, like, pay for my travel, all these things. She's like, yeah, of course. So, originally her thought was either Italy or Greece. And so, we looked into both. Greece is significantly more cheaper than Italy. Italy is a very expensive place to get married. I mean, so is Greece, but like not quite that expensive. So, we landed on Greece. It honestly felt like a dream until I probably landed in Greece. I'd never really felt like I was actually going until I got there. So, and like still to this day, sometimes I'm like, did a wedding in Greece?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So tell me about like the planning process in Spain. Like, do you feel like it was like harder? Like, was there language barriers? Like, tell me all of those kind of things. I'm curious.
Yeah. So first I want to say I'm sitting outside because I have an install for a wedding this week. And so if you hear noises or like the wind keeps blowing in my face or people talking, it's because I'm waiting for them to come unlock the venue and then install start after we're done with the podcast. So anyway, excuse any extra noises that you hear, but the planning process, I was a little nervous about it, but it wasn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be, like, once we got into it, because like any venue, they had preferred vendors, and some of them, like, you absolutely had to use. So like the florals, we absolutely had to use who was on their list because it was a castle from the 1300s. So like they had to know exactly what they were doing and what they could and couldn't do. And then same for their AV and DJs, like we had to use them because of those same things. There weren't major language barriers. They also were able to speak English. I can understand a small amount of Spanish. So what they couldn't like articulate to me in English, I was able to figure it out. But yeah, it wasn't as difficult. I think the biggest thing was the timing of everything, which I know we'll talk about in a minute. But how about planning in Greece? Like, I'm sure you don't know Greek. So, like,
No, but they all spoke English. Like, I
yeah.
really didn't have any language barriers, and everyone over there. I will say this: like, when you're traveling to Europe, you hear a lot of times like Europeans don't like Americans, like all these things. Greece was so welcoming. Everybody from the Greek culture was so welcoming. They wanted to hear where you were from. They wanted to know why you were there. They wanted to know, like how long of a flight it was and all those things. Like, they
Mhm.
were really invested in that, and like so I had like a really, really, really good experience with people there, and the food and just the culture was amazing. I don't, going to Paris next year, I feel like I had like maybe a different experience, so we'll
Yeah.
see. But yeah, no, everybody was really great over there. Honestly, one of the most difficult things about Greece, and I really didn't even know this during the planning process, but I've learned more so when I was there, was when I was planning with this bride, these vendors would take a while to get back with you, like a
Yes.
really, really long time, like over a month, over 2 months sometimes.
Mhm.
Some vendors are better than others. And I learned when I got there that the island Santorini shuts down from November to March.
Oh. Oh, that's
Yeah.
long.
Yeah. So it's like completely, basically everyone pretty much funnels out of
Yeah.
the island, except for some locals who stay all year. And I didn't know that. Like, that's just not something people know about Santorini. So when this bride decided she wanted to get married in Greece, we decided that in like October. So it was like right on that lip of like people
Yeah.
kind of going out. So a lot of people ferry back over or fly back over to Athens and live there in the off season. Like, not very many people stay in Santorini. So it was super interesting to learn that. I guess, like, because when you're there, it's so dry. Like, and I don't know, that's not like something you think about, because like you always see in Santorini, you see like the white buildings and all that,
Mhm.
but like outside of that, it's like dry farm country. It's kind of interesting.
Interesting.
There's a lot of grapes that are grown there, and they do like a lot of wine production and all this stuff. So it's really, really dry. And so I'm like, do y'all ever get rain here? And that's when they told me, yeah, in the off seasons it rains all the time, and like you can't, like, it's like miserable here.
Yeah. I
So
wouldn't wanna stay either if it was raining all the time.
no, yeah. So that was like super duper interesting about Santorini. So if you're ever going, you can't go from November to, I think it's March or April. I want to say it's March.
Yeah.
Um,
That's crazy.
isn't it?
So, in Spain, they were very nice as well.
Mm,
But, like, the timing
yeah.
of it being international planning in the States and planning in Spain, they're 6 hours ahead, but they're
Mhm.
done with work at, like, 3 PM. Like, every meeting we had was at 8 AM our time, if not
Yeah.
earlier, because
Yeah.
they were like, "Yeah, we're done at 3." So, it's 2 o'clock their time at 8 AM.
Mm,
So it was all a lot of, like, 8 AM meetings that we would have with them, but they did, like, take a long time to get back with you, which is just their culture, and I wish that we were not in, like, a hurry culture.
yeah.
Um,
I
and
I know.
they also, here it's like, "Oh, do you have this date available?" And they're like, "Yes, but we have a couple other people interested." With them, it was more of like, "Do you have this date available?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure." And then I wouldn't hear back from them, and we were getting closer and closer and closer. Mind you, I think we started planning this in February or March, and they
Uh-huh.
got married in October. So,
Oh shoot.
yeah, it was like a quick little, like, turnaround kind of thing.
Oh my
So,
god. The lack of communication would actually be like, that's
yeah.
that's
Yeah, so I was panicking because, in the US, like, we want answers and we gotta get it done versus over there, they're like, "Yeah, we'll take care of it." I'm like, "But are you?" Because I don't know. But they did. It all worked out.
yeah.
But yeah, the timing, I think, was a big thing. Um, so then when I would get up and answer their emails, like, they were already asleep or it was late over there, so then just going back and forth, but we got it done.
Yes. Yes, I know. I kind of got to a point where I knew when to expect emails from people in Greece. So like I would kind of try to be on my laptop at that time if I could, just because that's like if I could get them when they're awake, because they're 9 hours. Was it 9? 7, or maybe it was I don't even remember now. What the heck?
They're way
It's
ahead.
Yeah, they're way ahead. Because I even remember Sarah McCall would text in the group chat, like, "Anybody had heard from Hannah?" I'm like, "I'm trying to sleep."
Yeah.
Like, "Tell me you're not hearing from Hannah." Like, so, yeah, no, so I would try to be on my laptop around that time, which was typically, very early in the morning for us. So, but yeah, they didn't work crazy late. But the thing about Greece too was everyone gets married there. It's so popular. So there's weddings on Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays and Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays.
Wow.
Like there's not really a day. There's rarely any days in between where people aren't getting married. So the vendors, like when I got there, were like they looked tired and stressed.
Yeah.
Because at this point, like we're thick of the wedding season for them because their wedding season's like July to October. So they were like, "Yeah, this is like number 7 for me this week." And I'm like dying after 3,
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I definitely felt bad for them in that way, but it was, yeah, the timing is definitely hard and they don't really hop on calls with you there.
Yeah.
And everything's through WhatsApp and that made everything harder. I don't know if you
Yes.
use WhatsApp, which was a whole
Yep.
learning. Luckily in college, I worked with the International Student Services because I was a social work major. So I had WhatsApp and I was very well versed with it because a lot of my Chinese students and things, it's all they could use. But I hate WhatsApp. I was like so done with it by the end of that trip. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
That's like one tip I will say, and we'll talk about tips in a minute. But like my bride did this, and I did not, and like I deeply regret this. Is you could get the little SIM card that like allows you to text and stuff international. I don't know if you did that. I didn't, and so she was able to use her phone everywhere she went. And
Mm-hmm.
so like I was itching for, and that's another reason why I wasn't communicating with like everyone a lot, other than my couple, was because like I rarely had internet. Like I had to be at my hotel or at the venue or at a restaurant who maybe had it to be able to text or whatever. So it
Yeah.
was like, yeah, that was
Yeah.
a little scary because sometimes I would get in like taxis by myself and I'm like, in the
Yeah.
US it's not safe. But in Greece it like really is. Like I never felt nervous or uncomfortable, and me and my driver became best friends because
Nice.
yeah. So that's another tip I would say, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So
Yeah.
but yeah, no. Were there any other like unique challenges that or like things that you learned about Spain or the wedding culture over there that like shocks you compared to the wedding culture over here?
Yes, it was so much cheaper for them to get married in Spain than in the US. Like what they would have done over there, even just florals would have been like 2, 3 times the amount in the US. It was like just mind blowing to me,
Yeah.
the monetary value difference. And getting there was an adventure.
Yeah. Yeah, tell me,
Because
how
we
long was your flight? Like, how far out did you get there? Sorry, I'm not trying to shift
no.
topic here, but like, tell me a little bit about your travel too, because
So we actually did a trip before we ended up in Spain. I was like, if I'm going to Europe, then I'm going to Europe. Like I'm doing the things in Europe.
exactly.
So we went to Rome before and Paris, and then we went to Spain. It was all amazing. But either if we had flown from the US to Spain, or Paris to Spain, it would have been the same. So we had to fly into Barcelona, and then from Barcelona, we had to take a train to Girona, and that was fine because that was all there was Spanish and English.
Yeah,
They speak a different dialect of Spanish, but anyway, I could still figure it out.
they
So
do. Yeah, yeah,
they had Spanish and English on all of their signs, and I could figure that out.
yeah.
Was that right? And then when we got to Girona, no, we had to take 2 trains. Okay.
It's
So
all
we had to take
confused.
a
I'm
train.
the
We
same
had
way.
to take like a short train from the
Yeah.
airport to the other train station. Then when we got to the other train station, it took us somewhere else. And when we got there, nothing was in English because it was a remote, not really remote, but it was like a small town where people just don't go for vacation, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
The security that worked there could speak a little bit of English, and I could speak a little bit of Spanish, so we could figure it out.
Yeah.
But when they help you buy your train ticket, there's 2 different trains. There's a short train and a long train.
Yep, that's how Greece was too. Yeah.
And we bought tickets for the long train, and I didn't know that that was happening. So we get there, And mind you, I'm trying to get there for rehearsal because we only had the venue for so many days. And so we could only get there on rehearsal day. So we're flying from Paris, getting on 2 trains, trying to get there before rehearsal. So we're in the train station and we're standing like on the platform, but the trains aren't going the way that we need them to go. And so we're trying to get to the next platform. Well, people can't speak English at this point. And so I'm like, okay, I'm not going to cry just yet. Like somebody's got to help me with this.
Yeah.
So I keep asking people and they're like, yeah, it's the train down there. It's the train down there. And I'm tracking the timing on my phone. It's like an hour and a half. It's like, no, I know I can get there in 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes. Like, where's that train? Where's the 30 to 45-minute train?
Yeah.
So come find out, I had to go buy another ticket. It was boarding as we were buying the tickets. We had to run to the platform, and then we got on the train, and the train like starts moving as soon as we get on the train to get there in time. Then when we get to this other place, we had to get a cab, and we were in the cab for like 30, 45 minutes because, again, we're in remote Spain, and it's taking us to this castle. And yeah, so that I think was like the most stressful part of getting there was the trains and the no English part. But we made it, so.
Yeah, we got there. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say I luckily, like, before the wedding didn't have like really any travel issues. It was after when we went into Athens that turned into a whole thing, but luckily that was on our own time at that point, so it was like kind of fine.
Yeah.
But the wedding was on a Friday for me, so we had a red eye on Sunday night, so we got there Monday. So luckily we had a lot of time, and one of the main reasons for that was because, this is interesting, everything in Greece is a 24% tax.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So everything was cheap, but the tax sucked.
Yeah.
So my bride, we started thinking, and she was like, if I can avoid this tax, like, I need to avoid it. So it was like a whole battle of her trying to like take out euros euros and like shift the currency changes and all these things. And like, so I was trying to like go around and pay these vendors the week. It was mostly just the florist, but like also to handle some videography things. And so luckily I was there early to help handle all of that stuff because cards kept declining because you can't use American Express there. And it's just like a whole thing. And like, they needed cash for this, and then the venue ended up being a little bit more than, it was like a whole shabacle. So like really the money side of things was much harder. But I'm with you. I would say overall it was much cheaper to get married in Greece than what it would be here, other than, funny enough, the flowers. I would say the flowers are very expensive in Greece, and it's because they have to import them over. So it's like a little different, you know?
Yeah.
So kind of like how the water over there is super expensive because you import it over. So that was like really the hard part, but everything else was like, I mean, the food was so cheap. The venue was so cheap. It was kind of crazy, but yeah, no, the travel wasn't too bad. It was honestly just a 12-hour flight where I was just like, I'm gonna die.
I think ours was 9 hours.
Okay.
Because we did a red eye too. I'm gonna move because of the sun. Sorry. Changing my landscape.
I feel like I can do 9 hours in my sleep now that I've done it. But I also feel like I could never go like 16 or 17, like to like Korea or something like some of these people do.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah. No, I get it. But yeah, I would say for me, challenge-wise, the tax was definitely very interesting, where I was like,
yeah,
okay, that's a lot of money. And that's only in Santorini, or no, that was everywhere in Greece. Never mind. I would say another thing that was really, really hard in Santorini is obviously they make all their money off of tourists, which is fair. So every time I stepped out of my hotel to travel anywhere on the island, which is not a very big island, by the way, like it's small, like you can get to one end to the other end in like 15 minutes, you know, so it's a small island. It's like 50 euros one way. And dollars are more than euros. So if it was $50, it was probably like 54. If it was 50 euros, it was probably like $54 or whatever it was. So it was like 50 euros every time I stepped out of
it's crazy
hotel. So I probably spent, that's one thing I've learned is upping my travel a little bit. Because I spent probably close to almost $1,000 in travel that week alone.
Yeah.
And it's nobody's fault. It's not her fault. It's not my fault. Like, it's just something you just don't know until you really get there. And you could rent a car, but I'm going to tell you this right now. Don't drive a car in Santorini. This people are crazy.
Oh, yeah. It was crazy in Spain, too, because we could have rented a car because it's easy to get a driver's license over there.
Yeah.
But I was like, because there's a ton of roundabouts, which are fine. We have them here where I live, but
Yeah.
there's no, like, you just merge. I don't know. It's totally different. They grew up doing it. So, but anyway,
Yeah.
did the landscape in Spain, because the pictures were gorgeous, you were like on a rooftop, did that have anything or influence like the style of your client's wedding?
I mean, I think not that what this bride picked wasn't absolutely gorgeous, but I definitely just think whites are very popular there because it just meshes with what the architect, what it looks like in Santorini. So I definitely think that influenced it a little bit. So I think it's just kind of all like, and I even learned too when I was talking to the florists and stuff there. A lot of people just don't really do color over there. So I was
Really?
talking to the florist, yeah, and a bride after my bride's wedding picked pink, and the florist was like, "I'm so excited! I'm so excited! I get to do pink! I get to do pink!" And I'm like, "I always see pink every weekend!" Like, like
Yeah.
shocked, So, yeah, I definitely just think it was what just looked good over there,
Hmm.
and all that good stuff. I mean, yours was way more colorful.
Yeah.
So tell me.
So ours was based off the bride's dress. So she had a colorful dress. There were hand painted flowers on it. It was like blues and purples and pinks and
Mhm.
maroon and mauve and green. And so she loves color anyway. She was like, I want this to be like Lisa Frank. And I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? I'm going to.
Yeah.
Um, we toned it down some so that it would match the dress a little bit. But yeah, it was super colorful. I was so excited. The flowers were like freaking amazing.
They
So
were.
we
They
did
your
like
photos were.
lots of bright colors. The altar was super cool.
Yeah.
We had some of these like glass bulbs at the reception, and we put flowers inside of them instead of candles. It was really cool.
Oh,
But
that's
yeah, and the landscape there. So they got married in an olive grove, so it was very green. The background was, a stone castle, so it
Mhm.
had like those beautiful earthy colors. And then we brought in a bunch of color with the florals in her dress. So yeah, it was great. She was like, I don't care, just give me color,
Yeah.
which I
No,
love.
I love that. Ours
Yeah.
were very polar opposite, but that's our countries are also very polar opposite.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, were you like had you gone to the venue before or like when you rehearsed it was the first time you ever been there, which is
Yeah.
nerve-wracking.
That part was a little nerve-wracking because I need to like, and I mean, I tell my brides this. I can go anywhere and do a wedding, or I wouldn't be good at my job. But I like to see at least a floor plan or a layout of something if
Yeah.
I haven't been there before. And excuse me, because this was a castle, there were so many different moving parts. Like we had a welcome party, we had rehearsal, we had ceremony, we had
Mhm.
the reception, and they could show me that there was like there's a map on their website that I could
Yeah.
look at of where everything was,
Yeah.
but spacing wise, there was no like blueprint, which was fine. But talking with the venue, I mean, they do it all the time. And they're like, yes, this will fit. Yes, this won't fit. So I just had to trust them. They're not going to let anything not be right. So I just trusted what they were telling me was going to work or not work. And then on the day of, like, I just had the mindset of if I don't like it, then we're going to change it until it looks the way that we want it to look. But it
Yeah.
worked out great. So
Yeah.
that was fine. There was a little part of where the bridal party would enter at because they couldn't show me, there were no pictures. That was a
Mhm.
little difficult until we got there for rehearsal, but then we figured it out and it was fine.
No, I didn't get to see my venue either, and it was the amount of photos I looked at of that venue, like, I feel like at that point, I probably could have told you inside and out of what it was gonna be like and how many
Yeah.
times I'd emailed the venue, like, "Does this work? Does this happen? Does this" whatever, and they're like, "Yes, it's fine." Like,
Yeah.
"Yay." Or, so but I'm with you, and clients and a lot of times they'll ask too, "Have you ever worked at my venue before?" When they're inquiring with you, and it's like, most time you can say yes, but if it's a
Yeah.
no, it's like, really? Like, that like unless it's like a very logistically hard venue, which some are that way,
Hmm.
that it really just should not stress brides out
Yeah.
because like you said, if we're gonna do our job, we're gonna go to the other than internationally, like we're gonna go to venue beforehand. We're gonna be able to figure it out. And like you, like I went in, I saw the venue on that Tuesday before the wedding, so I was able to walk through it, and like it was pretty much exactly how I kind of imagined it, luckily.
Mhm.
So I got really lucky. Cause and like you, like I'm not in this old castle. It's pretty much up and down. Like I had the ceremony and the cocktail hour on this level, and I had the dinner up on this level, and it wasn't like I had a lot of logistics, which was really, really great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely like I definitely think going into the like packing my bag and stuff, I definitely told my husband, I'm like, the hardest thing is I've never seen this venue before. I don't know if this works, like, so and my guest count was really small, so it was like, am I fitting this space okay? Like, am I filling it up okay? Am I, whatever. But um yeah, no, I get it. And another really hard thing too was, and you can probably attest to this too in Spain, Europeans eat so slow. So dinner took so long.
Yeah.
And the bride and groom looked at me and they're like, "Are we done yet?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think so." Because at this point, like, 3 courses had gone out. And I'm like, "Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so." And then I walk up to the guy and he's like, "No, we have 2 more courses to go." And I was like, I like it kind of like just blinked in my brain. Like obviously I read their menu, but it just like blinked in my brain at that point. Like I was just like, "Oh gosh, okay."
Yeah.
They just want to, because like in America, like we eat, we do our toast, and we want to dance.
That's right.
And so the couple was like, "I want to dance." Like I don't want to be up here anymore. So, but overall, it went pretty smoothly, and yeah. But
Yeah.
what advice, like, would you ever want to plan another European trip or like wedding or just destination in general? It doesn't necessarily have to be Europe. I know you've done one in the Bahamas before, but like even anywhere else, like, would you ever want to do it again? And what advice would you give your clients about?
Oh, for sure. I love destination weddings because they're different. It's not this, typical venues that we're at a majority of the time.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just an experience. Like I'm all about an experience for you and your guest. We had 110 guests at that wedding and it was like so smooth and easy, but it was an experience for everybody.
Hmm.
So, yes, I would definitely want to do more. My
Yeah.
grass is coming in front of me.
It's
I'd want to
okay.
do more destination weddings. Advice is don't try to do it on your own. Hire somebody, whether they've been there or not. Like I truly hate that question. Well, have you been there before? Have you done that before?
Me too. I'm with you on that. It's like we
I don't
really.
know. Did you do what you were doing before you got hired for your first job? No, you weren't. Like we all have to learn. So, but in our industry, like we do it every single weekend. It doesn't matter where you are. But I definitely want to do something in Italy. I think that would be
Me too.
amazing.
Yeah.
I
Me.
want to say Paris just because it's Paris, but there's just as amazing venues in Italy, and Italy's warmer than Paris. I'm a warm weather girl. Like
Yeah.
don't make me go to the cold.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah. I get
but yeah, no, I'd love to because the scenery is different.
it.
It's
Hmm.
it's a little bit cheaper for brides. Like it truly is. I mean,
Yeah. Your
I
money
don't know.
stretches so
What
far.
about you?
Oh, I would do it in a heartbeat. I would just do international if I could. I loved
Right?
it. I ate it up. I loved it. Loved to travel. Loved. It was hard at points, and I was kind of like, I hope I'm doing this well, But like, you have to
Yeah.
believe in yourself, and I know I'm good at what I do,
Yeah.
So it's like I trusted what we had done, and I will say as an advice, like as much as I was helpful for the planning side. It was helpful to get a travel agent at least involved a little bit who does know the area really well. Especially on like something like Santorini where you need to know each area and kind of like where to stay and all that. Because a fun fact also, and I don't know if this is all of Europe. I don't know if this is the same thing in Spain. Like I don't know, but there's not addresses in.
There's not.
Okay, that's supposed to be a European thing. Um,
But
I
they
was
knew where to go.
Yeah, I was like shook to my core. I'm like, "Do you have the address?" And they're like, "We don't have addresses here." And I was like, "How do you get around? It's like, how do you I live with my GPS. Like,
Mhm.
how do you?" And my driver was like, "You just have to know this island." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay." That's terrifying. So it wasn't like That part was hard. So it's not like you can just type in an address into Google and kind of see where your hotel was, you know? So it was helpful to just kind of have somebody who did understand the areas and like just time of year and things like that. But now that I feel like I will say Santorini is one of those places where if you've done it once, you can do it 100 times. Like once you figured it out, it's not hard. So like I feel like I could be a travel agent for there now on some level because like I know which areas are great and I really did personally for me, I really relied on the locals. That's how I wanted to go to Greece was I wanted to have a game plan for the wedding, of course, but like when it came to my personal activities and things, like
Yeah.
I didn't want to have a game plan. Like I really just wanted to like talk to my drivers, have them tell me where to go, when to go, where's the best place to go. And they did not disappoint. They
Yeah.
really gave me the best options and all that good stuff. So I wouldn't trade doing that for anything. So, you know, having a travel agent involved was great, but if I ever got hired to do a wedding in Santorini again, like I don't think I would struggle. You know, it's not it's
Yeah.
pretty straightforward. So,
Yeah.
but
So
yeah.
for my client, they they were able to go to their venue a couple of times because I
Mm,
mean, as you know, I'm sure our listeners know, like once you get over there, it's super easy to hop on a plane and go somewhere. Like
yes.
2 hours from Paris to Spain. Okay, yeah, put me on a flight all day long. Like,
It's like us going to New York. It's like
yeah, yeah. So what they did for their guests to accommodate them in Spain is on their website was very detailed of like this is how you get from point A to point B, like the whole
I,
train system that I talked about.
yeah.
And because they had people flying in from Ireland, the US, like other
Yeah.
places in Europe, so they listed all of that out. They bought out the venue, so it was like a resort, so we all stayed on site there. We didn't have to like
Mm,
go into the town, which was really nice, and like get
yeah.
anything because everything was already there. um so I think that made it a little easier. But right before we left, there was actually, I think Sarah McCall did the podcast with, I can't remember her name, but she started the wedding app.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's the app that allows you and your guests to get onto it and you guys can communicate through it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they downloaded it, but I told them about it as far
Mm,
as like, you know, download this app, put it on the website for all of the guests to see. And that way you can communicate if there's any issues, if we need to change anything. They know exactly what's happening. But I think that, you know, in future weddings, whether they're destination in the US or overseas destination or whatever it is,
yeah.
I think would be super helpful
Yeah.
because it's an easy way to communicate. Now, again, like we'd have to figure it out because of international data and, you know, all those
Yeah.
things
All
that
that. Yeah.
don't matter to us or that we
Yeah.
can't figure out. But like, I think just like overly preparing your guest
Mhm.
on the client side of it is very helpful, you know, because if they've never traveled
Yeah.
overseas before, then it's going to be overwhelming, even if they're staying at the resort the whole time and not traveling out and going anywhere. Like,
Yeah.
it's just an overwhelming thing anyway.
It is. And I will say that's the one thing about Greece versus like Italy or maybe Spain or whatever. Like you can get villas there and like everything's on site. It wasn't like that in Greece. Like you can't stay on site. So everyone's separate. So that is definitely one thing where it's like if you're going to Greece, a wedding app, a Facebook group with everybody in it, like something would be very helpful to be able to communicate with everybody. You know, because some people stay in Airbnbs, which a lot of Greek people don't want you to do. You know,
Right.
it's really hurting their like
Yeah.
culture and whatever. And then some people stay in resorts and like I stayed on a side of a volcano, whereas my bride stayed on the top of a hillside, you
Yeah.
know? So like everyone's completely spaced out. And so, you know, definitely having something where you can communicate and getting that SIM card so you can text internationally. And I have totally learned my lesson there. Even when I go to Paris for funsies, like I'm getting a SIM card so I can use my phone because that was definitely a pain in my butt, like trying to get. And they don't have internet like we do here. Like our buses have it, our restaurants have it, our Target has it. Like everyone has Wi-Fi here. Like that's not so much
Yeah.
over there.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
and Wi-Fi kind of sucks over there too. So,
Yeah.
we're on a small little island. Like I mean, of course, it's suck, but yeah, no, I would love to plan another wedding in Greece and Italy and Spain. Like
Yeah.
I'll go to Canada. You take me, I'll go. Like
Yeah.
it was so much fun, and I'm so appreciative, and I think you'll feel the same way. And there's such a level of I'll never like be able to like thank my bride enough for believing in me to do this.
Mhm.
And I don't think they realize how much that means to us. Like we're wedding planners, but we're also human. And her believing in me to do her wedding over there was such a treat. And like it really does open doors for us. And they don't like it's not their job to think about
Right.
that by any means, but like they do that for us. And
Yeah.
like and I'm forever thankful for that. And the opportunity. I had never been to Europe before. Not only did she open doors for me, but she got me out of this country, for
Yeah.
the first time. Like there's so much I have to be thankful for in that situation. And so yet again, not their responsibility to think about that, but like I wouldn't be I'm just thankful she believed in me, and I'm sure you feel the same way.
Yeah. Oh,
Um
yeah, for sure.
so
Like, I've always wanted to do an international wedding. Some people don't want to, but I've always wanted to do it, and it was my first time in Europe also, and
yeah,
when it came, I was like, we're going and we're doing Europe. I
yes,
mean, we're
yeah,
doing what we can with
yeah.
the time that we have. Um, and yeah, I hope like I know this is going to open up doors, like you said, and it
Mhm.
might be like next year, but I don't care. Like I've done it.
Yeah.
I like you said earlier, I did a wedding in the Bahamas. I was able to do that. And that was amazing. And, I'd love to go back to the Bahamas and do a wedding. I'd love to do, anywhere in the Caribbean, just honestly anywhere.
Take
Like,
me wherever, I'll
I
go.
know, right? It was just,
Especially
yeah, it
Switzerland.
was an amazing experience.
Yeah, it
It
really
was an
was.
amazing experience for sure.
I know, it's like I always tell people, I'm like, and Greece is one of those places too where I feel like it's a dream for a lot of people that never comes true. So like the only time I go to Europe, I went to Greece, which I think is just kind of crazy in itself. And it really is an amazing country, and the people are great, and the food is great, and they want you to go there. So like really try to make that dream come true if you can, and go to Greece and get to experience it. And even if you don't go to Santorini, you go to Crete, you go to Mykonos, you go to Athens, like wherever. And I will say I won't talk about Athens too much because that wasn't wedding related, but Athens really was amazing. And the food in Athens, just like I still dream about it to this day. Like I ate way too many euros, and the people were so amazing, and the history was just to die for. I love
Yeah.
it. So
Did your couple do any like unique traditions or cultural elements as their part of their wedding since they were in Greece?
not really.
No.
No. Did you?
Ours did not so much like in the ceremony, but the reception because they're Irish. They love to party. And so when we were planning this, they prepared me, and I knew like Europeans eat slower than we do, they take their time.
Yeah.
They prepared me like dinner's probably going to be 2 hours. And I was like, oh, all right, we'll do
Yeah.
it. And then she's like, and then we're probably going to party until 4 a.m. And I was like, you can party until 4 a.m. I'm going to be done at like 10 or 11. They were like, okay.
Yeah.
So the Irish just love to party. And
Oh,
during reception, like they played some Irish songs, and it was just so fun to watch them. Like they would all sing together, they would all like dance together. Like it was just really cool to watch that part of their culture. And then they also did it at the welcome party as well. Like they would
mhm.
just start singing like Irish songs,
Aw.
and yeah, it was just really cool.
That was-
Um but yeah, that was a really neat thing
Yeah, that is
to
neat.
watch.
No, mine was an all-American couple.
Yeah.
No, nothing cultural, but I do get to see that a lot and not that this is topic, but I get to see a lot of that in Atlanta just because I
Yeah.
do so many cultural weddings, and it's
Yeah.
really, really fun to see all the unique. I don't know if you get to see it as much over there in Savannah, but I do all kinds over here, so it is really, really honestly such a treat to see the different traditions for people because Americans are pretty straightforward people.
Yeah.
Like we're just but whether it's Jewish or Korean or, Vietnamese or I've had Lebanese, like it's all it's really fun. So
Yeah.
and this is one thing about Europe too is in America, I will say we don't adapt quite as well, but Europeans, like, no matter what your culture was, they were gonna be
Yeah.
great with it and probably
Yeah.
have done it before. So yeah, but is there anything as we I think we talked a lot, and Is there anything that takes the cake from your trip? I know mine. This will be a good one. It's
Um, you go first.
okay. It's not like quite takes the cake, but so obviously as I said, there was no addresses in Europe. And so as I was there's not like a good way to like handle a transportation timeline over there is so different because they don't have like buses. It's like a bunch of cars that go pick up people. And so I was, mapping out everywhere that the cars need to go to pick up because there's only like 19 people. So like we were able to pretty much kind of pick up everybody on these cars. And so I put a list together for the driver and I said, grandparents are here, parents are here, step parents are here, whatever. And the car driver had everybody correct, but he went to the wrong place for the grandparents, which are like probably some of the people you shouldn't leave. Like
Right.
it's so hot. The grandparents are like, I'm hot. And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. Um, and they got there like an hour late. So that turned into like a whole thing. So
Yeah.
that definitely took a kick. And the bus driver was like really getting defensive. And I was like, I mean, at the end of the day, you made a mistake. Like, it's okay. And the couple's not angry, but like, don't get defensive. Like, it's really okay. But like now the wedding does start late, which kind of rolled into their dinner being so long. And so I was able, and this is why you hire a planner. I was able to walk up to the venue people and I was like, hey, like, this is a situation. I know they paid for this amount of time, but like we've traveled here so far. Like, I hate to cut their wedding off early. Like, can we just wiggle some extra time at the end? They gave them like an extra 30 minutes. So it kind of worked out. But
Yeah.
that's why you hire a planner because things like that happen behind the door and we're vouching and for you even when you don't see it,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
not like a crazy this takes the cake, but in the moment I was like, "Ugh, not the grandparents."
Yeah.
Like, poor people. And they're like texting me like, I don't see the car. And I'm like, he says he's there. Like, I gave him the correct address, or not address, but like area.
Yeah.
No, he didn't go. So,
Yeah. Nothing too crazy for ours. One of the courses that came out was wrong. And yeah.
that'll
Which
happen.
it ended up being what they wanted in the first place. But then, like, when you start getting into budget, you're like, oh, well, we can do this instead or whatever. So they start serving it, and I'm like, what is this? And they tell me what it is. But it was a shellfish, and like they had guests with shellfish allergies. So
Mm.
they planned ahead and were like, we're just not going to do anything with the shellfish. So they start bringing it out. It's lobster. And I'm like, number one, what is this?
Yeah.
And they told me what it was. And they're like, okay, the bride and groom aren't expecting this. Like,
Yeah.
you can't overcharge them for it because they are expecting whatever else. And so
Yeah.
they're like, okay. So I went and told the bride and groom, I was like, here's what happened. Like, they're bringing out, what you wanted for this course originally, but it wasn't what it's supposed to be. And they're like, all right, whatever. We don't care. That's what we wanted anyway. And I was like, okay. So that kind of worked out. It wasn't like anything great, but they got what they wanted. So
Yeah. And that's another reason to hire a planner because
that's
we're not
right.
just watching the big things, we're also watching the small things. Like, is your entrees correct?
Right.
We think
Yeah.
a lot. So, yeah, I mean, hey, they got what they wanted, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, this shellfish thing, you don't have to be very careful with that, knowing the allergies. So that definitely is hard. Well, do you have any other international weddings planned?
Not yet.
No, but hire us.
That's right. We're here for it. All the girlies are here for international planning. So
Yeah, we're
we've done
all
it. We
here.
know what we're doing.
We know what we're doing. Sarah knows what she's doing. Jackie knows what we all do. And it's such a trend right now to get married internationally. So I do hope this becomes more opportunities for all of us girls.
Yeah.
I know a lot of planners, this is something we all dream of. So, yeah, hire us. We'll do it. If you want to take us to Greece or Spain or Italy or,
Yeah.
talk to Greenland, I don't know. I'll go. But yeah, I know that's so fun. Well, any other things that you want to share about international weddings?
I don't think so.
No, just hire us. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening to us ramble on about our international weddings. We're so proud, but we do hope that more brides can feel comfortable that these planners are getting the experience and can travel and are willing to go with you. And there is such a and I'll kind of go back and say this. My bride did look at me at one point and was like, I think having a Greek planner would have been fine, but like having an American planner has really been helpful
Yeah.
that understands us. And so nothing against Greek or,
Yeah.
Italian or Spanish planners, but like there is something special about having your planner go with you and understand you and be a part of the full process and kind of understanding the travel elements and all of that too. And so there is such a connection there that you build with your planner. So we want to go with you. And of course it's a little expensive to travel us over there, but I do think it's worth it because for your right hand man the whole time you're there, the
Yeah.
planners over there are just going to show up on your wedding day. So we will go a little extra above and beyond. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well,
yeah. Well, thank
thanks
you.
everybody for listening. You can find us on Instagram at Stunning and Brilliant Events, Facebook, Spotify, anywhere you can get your podcast.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
We have a whole destination page up on our website now. Please check it out. You can look at some of our weddings and what we've done just over the years and kind of how we're gearing towards that. So definitely check that out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Find us just about anywhere, even on TikTok. So, all right.
Yay.
Well, here else next time.
See ya.
Hey.